Alright, here's another car audio video. I'm going to talk about the CD players in your car and how they work and how you can hook them up and all that good stuff. First of all, I'm going to talk about the installation process because if you were like I was, I looked at a few installation videos on YouTube, most notably the Crutchfield installation video, which is informative, but when it gets to the part about splicing the wires together, it just says color match them. And yes, color matching them will work, okay? But let me explain in detail how it works, okay? Your stock stereo has a stock wiring harness to your vehicle. I'll use my vehicle as an example, okay? The deck in my car, the wiring harness was for a 1999 Ford Taurus. There are companies that make a kind of a plug that goes onto that plug with the wires hanging loose out of it. And you can get these, any car audio store will have the wiring harness adapter for almost every mainstream vehicle that you can imagine. I mean, if you're driving around in a vintage Ferrari, okay, maybe you'll have to have something done, but for any regular car, they will have the wiring harness. The deck you buy will have its own little plug that goes into it. And what you need to do, or what the installer does, is basically splices the wires in between these two harnesses you've just bought, and they color match them. All the deck companies follow the same color coding. Just makes things easier. It's kind of like a language system, I guess. Let's talk about what these wires do. First of all, there's going to be 8 wires that will go to your speakers. Okay, you get the positive and the negative for each speakers, and they will be color-coded. Your positive wires are usually like, one of them will be purple and black for positive, and then a solid purple for the negative. It's self-explanatory. The 3 wires that you'll need to make your deck come on are the power wire, the ignition wire, and the ground wire. Power wire comes right from the battery, goes right to the deck. The ignition wire is what cues the deck to come on. It's akin to trying to roll your windows down in your car when you don't have the key in it. It simply won't work. But when you turn the key a little bit, it cues the ignition wire, and then you can roll the windows down. Same thing with the deck. The ground wire is what runs to the chassis of the vehicle. Normally they tap into a stock ground. If you want to make a better ground, you can use maybe a thicker gauge cable to a larger bolt. Frankly, this really is not necessary, but you can do it if you want a better ground. And there you go. Your deck should come on at that point. Now, when you're going to buy a deck, you need to think about first, what do I want to spend and what kind of features do I want? Because a basic deck will play CDs and it'll power your 4 speakers. And these are relatively cheap. But maybe you want to play an MP3 CD, and some cheaper decks can't do that. Maybe you want to use your iPod with the deck. Maybe you want to run external amplifiers. All of these things you need to consider. I'm going to break it down for you. Let's say you want to go balls out with your audio system. You're spending $2,000. You want the works. You're going to want a deck that has 2 or 3 RCA outputs on the back that have a full range signal to go to your full range amplifiers that amplify your components or coaxial speakers, whatever you're trying to amplify. And then you want a dedicated subwoofer out. And what that'll do is it sends just the sub-bass frequencies to your mono amplifier for your subwoofers. And it allows you to control the subwoofer's bass volume without interfering with the bass that goes to your full range speakers. It's a great feature to have. More high-end decks have RCA outputs with a little higher voltage to give a clearer signal. 5 volts, even 8 volts. Probably your cheaper decks will have maybe 2 or 3 volts. Really, they all work, but 5 volt is going to be better, and 8, of course, will be better. But you're going to pay for that. Having a little aux jack on the front, a little something to plug your iPod into or your MP3 player is a very nice thing to have. Some better decks can actually interface with your MP3 player and allow you to control it on the deck while it charges the MP3 player, which is very nice. As far as brands, there's many different brands. Of course, you have your budget brands, your mid-level brands, and your high-end brands. Good brands to go by, mainstream brands: Eclipse, Alpine, Pioneer makes a good deck. Clarion head units are good. And of course, many that I'm not mentioning are quite reasonable. Naturally, there are your budget decks. Sony decks, in my opinion, are okay, but probably not as good as the ones I named. A budget brand like Jensen, they'll work, but you're not going to get a lot of high-end features. And then you have your Walmart brands where you don't even know what the hell it is, but it's really cheap. And in life, you get what you pay for, and it's the same with the car audio CD player. So, that's the information about decks. Really, just think about what you want to spend. And also, I want to talk about accessories. When you buy a deck, you'll have to buy what's called the dash kit. Oftentimes in your car, your CD player will be an odd shape. In my case, it was this big oval contraption, and you have to have some sort of thing to fill that space because all decks have that same shape, a little rectangle, and you'll need the that's the dash kit, and the dash kit will cost extra. Places like Audio Express say, "Oh, you buy this deck for $75 or $100, and we'll install it for $1." And they will install it for $1 after you buy the dash kit. And for my car, the dash kit was $80, and it's about the cheapest made plastic you can imagine. Well, what can you do? I guess you can make one out of fiberglass, but that would be a whole lot of work. All right, well, there's your information about decks. Not much else needs to be said. When you go to buy one, I actually recommend looking online and then seeing if you can get it cheaper rather than going to a lot of your retailers, because often they'll have a sales agenda. The employees will be on a commission, and they will ask manufacturer suggested retail, which is a lot higher than what you normally have to pay. Check online first, see if you can get it cheaper, and if you want to do the install yourself, make sure to take your time. Heat shrink solder your connections, or you can crimp them. Yes, I am guilty of twisting and taping connections, but if you really want it to last, get a crimp set. It's $20 well spent. Just do it.